Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the introductory sections of ICAO English proficiency training. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is William. I'm a certified pilot in UK and Australia, and I am also the certified rater of the ICAO English in Australia as well. Okay, so in the following time, I would like to give you some idea about ICAO English proficiency requirements and also how we assess the candidates in case you are planning to take that test. And also, I would like to introduce the course structure. Lastly, all right, you would like to have some tasting about what are we actually going to test the candidates in case you are planning to take this course. Okay, so first of all, why there is an aviation English requirement? What do you think? All right, there are some visitors in the classroom. What do you think about? We have someone sitting here. Yep. Very good. All right. So what you have just mentioned is because aviation is a global industry. All right. We have to fly from one country to the other one. All right. But to a certain extent, most people are not speak in English. All right. That's why, all right, back to today is like before the World War II, actually, all right. In terms of the communications, actually, those pilots would not be able to communicate effectively, all right, because they don't have a standardized language. That's why from 2008, okay, the ICAO has implemented the ICAO English test, right, to require all the pilots, not only the pilot, I'll give you some more information, but also all other related parties has to have a standardized language, procedures with a standardized assessment as well. Okay. So here are the three major parties required to take the ICAO test. All right. Firstly, all right, obviously the pilots. No matter you are just going for the private pilot or the commercial pilot, all right. Nowadays, the license requirement require you to have at least a particular level of ICAO English standard, right? That's why, all right, for every pilot, no matter you're just for the private or just for the private flying or the commercial flying, you still need to have the certificates from the ICAO English test. Also, all right, the air traffic controller will have the same requirement as well. Okay. Now, from 2008, okay, not only the pilots and the ATC, but also some other people that required to communicate to the pilot, to the ATC, right? They are also required to have a ICAO English standard as well. Okay, in European countries nowadays, all right, from EASA, they already implement a standard that all the airside vehicle driver should have the ICAO English certificate nowadays. So let's talk about the levels. I'm not sure if you're, for those people who are listening are familiar with the ICAO standards. Actually, we assess based on different levels, okay, from level 1 to level 6, okay? Level 6 should be at the highest level. That means they define as the expert, right? It's nearly the native proficiency. That means you could actually use, speak, or listen to the English, right? Close to the native speaker. Close. I would like to use the word close because for some non-native English speaker, they would still be able to get level 6, right? Provided they could demonstrate a smooth usage of English. Okay. Then at a low level, like level 5, they define at this extended level. That means you could communicate without any problem, right? Somehow you be able to use English very competent, very smoothly, right? Including that using a very complex like structure and other sentences, so on. Okay. For level 4 is what they define as the operational level. This is actually the minimum requirement for international operation. In other words, in case you need to get a pilot license or becoming qualified ATC, this is the minimum level that you are required to achieve. Okay. Then below level 4 is level 3. All right. We would say pre-operational. Okay, that means you are just marginally be accepted. This is what we can't say. All right, level 3 is a passing level. Okay, if you get level 3, that means you are failed. All right, for level 1 and 2 as well. That these two levels are actually for those who really don't understand English. Okay, generally speaking, for students who not very familiar in English, I would say they could actually easily get level 3, right? Without some proper training, they would just get level 3. Okay. The only difference between level 3 and level 4, why I would like to mention this, because there are quite a lot of students can't be able to achieve level 4. All right. Because of the terminology, the standard structure, procedures, etc. I will explain more later. Okay. All right, so these 5 assessors, all right, I would say that we categorize this from the ICAO standard. Okay, there's a document indicating, right, how are we going to assess the candidate, right, in terms of the usage of the ICAO English is from the vocabulary. We will assess the range of the words that you are using. Are you using the same word, right, through the whole conversations, or are you be able to use a more diverse wordings to mention the same meaning? Okay. Sentence structure is regarding the grammar, obviously. Bear in mind, okay, although English proficiency is the basic standard, we are not the English assessor. We are only assessing whether you are be able to use English effectively, unlike you are taking a formal English like IELTS or some other English proficiency test. Okay, so that would be slightly different from the formal English assessment. But generally speaking, still we would assess the candidates, the grammar and the sentence structure, or whether you are be able to use a complex substructure, etc. Okay. Pronunciations, right? You might think, all right, if you're not a native speaker, are you be able to get the level 6 in the pronunciations? I would say the answer is yes, and possible. Okay, because we would eliminate the accent. Okay, if you have a strong accent, we would think it might affect your communications effectively. But somehow, our accent is not the major factor affecting our rating, right? Okay, but in the course, we would teach you how to, eliminate or try to speak, in a more proper manner. Okay, fluency, is about how you speak competently, how to speak like a pilot or ATC. And also comprehension is about the listening skills, right? Of course, you have to expose to different audio recordings, okay, in your ICAO assessments. And all the audio recordings are actually from different countries, all right? That's why you need to get familiar with different accents. Well, this is one of the most challenging part in the ICAO test. Lastly, is about interaction. Interactions is talking about whether you are be able to communicate with the assessor effectively with not only about your oral presentations, but like your gesture, everything come up together. Okay. Right. On top of those, assessor, the previous one is talking about, this is actually the guideline for the assessor. But on top of that, as a candidate, how are you going to prepare for your ICAO examinations? Is around this, all right, 5 competencies, so I would say. Okay, storytelling skills. In your assessment, okay, you're going to introduce yourself, right? And as an examiner or assessor, we are actually listening to your story. That's why your storytelling skills is somehow affecting your grading as well. Okay. And then paraphrasing. Paraphrasing means whether you will be able to use different words or different structures to, to give the meanings again. Okay. Sometimes the assessor will ask you to further elaborate your meaning. Then you have to paraphrase. Okay. This is one of the skills that you have to possess. Of course, aviation terminology is very important. You have to get to know, right, about the aviation terminology. But I would like to highlight this point. Okay. Aviation terminology would not be assessed, but during your assessments, you have to listen to different conversations. Okay. Although you don't necessarily need to use those technical terms, it will not be assessed. But if you're not familiar with that, probably you can't already understand what the conversations are talking about. This is the reason why I would like to highlight this point as well. And for the short-term memory, obviously, okay, because you have to listen to an audio clip for like 1 to 2 minutes, then you have to jot down the notes, right? And then after the clip, you have to tell the assessor, right, what was the conversations about. Okay, this is what you have to possess. And the cause and effect. Cause and effect is one of the major assessment. Okay, it's about how are you going to think the cause. All right, you will probably be shown a picture, all right, saying an air crash. Then the assessor will probably ask you, what are the possible reasons to cause this air crash? Then you have to explain to the assessor. And then the effect is what comes after. Okay, what do you think the things will happen after? This is how are you going to connect, all right, the cause and the possible effects, all right, from the picture, etc. Okay, all right, and then back to the cause. Who are we expecting? Okay. It's for everyone. Okay, it's for everyone. For anyone who is interested in aviation language, aviation English, are all welcome. Okay, no matter, right? You just need to get some basic idea about English. Okay, but remember, this course is not teaching you the English in general. I'm not going to teach you the English grammar, but we will, right, polish, right, the students' language proficiency. Okay, we are much more high focused on the skills and technique. How are you going to pass to get level 4? Okay, so see if you are one of them, right? If you are still a student and going to apply for cadetship or commercial pilot in the future, definitely this is a very, very good course for you. And for the general learners, okay, if you are interested or want to get to know more about ICAO English, right, then obviously this course is very suitable for you. And for some professional, all right, who are already working in the industry and would like to enhance their language skills in aviation, English, or also suitable to take this course. Okay. All right. So, this is a basic structure of the course. Okay. What we are aiming at is to help students to achieve or at least maintain ICAO level 4. All right, level 4 is the minimum requirement. On top of that would be another training. Okay, so this course is aimed, right, to help the student to get a pass, right, in the ICAO test. And the format is this is the initial design will be having 18 visits, right, with 3 hours each in the evening. on the weekdays normally. And we are planning to have 2 lessons per week. All right, so that would be slightly intensive, all right, compared to the general courses. And this course is going to be started in September this year. All right, will be probably last for 3 months. Okay. The style, all right, this is our initial design, all right. Besides the classroom teaching about the technical, right, knowledge, all of you or all the participants would have a chance to participate in the exercise. We will have some group discussion, individual assignment, right, in class, all right, in order to help you to elevate your language skills as well. Okay. Also, by the end of the course, we will give every student have a comment about your strengths and weaknesses, right? Under which part, all right, you have to spend more efforts to work on, all right? For example, if you are lack of confidence to speak up, all right, but your language skills is actually very, very good, right? Then I will probably suggest you to try to, right, plan your presentations or to try to arrange your storytelling. Okay, this is one of the examples. Okay, and then by the end of the course, all right, I can actually conduct a mock test, but that will be optional, all right, because this is an individual task. Right, if you would want to try, right, a mock test, then we can arrange for all of the students individually. Okay, but this is an optional one. Okay, so what are the topics to be covered? Okay, those are the on top of the basic requirements. I will probably teach students how about the questioning technique. Questioning means how are you going to ask the question effectively, right? Of course, you have to communicate. Actually, during the assessment, you have to communicate with the assessor. All right, questioning is one of the section that you have to demonstrate your questioning skills. And then the storytelling skills as well. Okay, how are you going to introduce yourself or to show the assessor your background, your flying experience or learning experience, okay, etc. And then how are you going to understand the course and in fact, in aviation context, all right, how are you going to plan your thoughts, all right? Of course, all the questions are all related to aviation and flying. Okay, how are you going to answer those questions is very, very important. And then the photo description. What does it mean? All right, the assessor will show you a picture. This is what I've just mentioned. And how are you going to describe those photos? Okay, effectively. Okay, and then we would teach you about the aviation phraseology. Okay, like the air to ground communication, standard procedures, etc. And also, lastly, it's about the emergency communications. How are we speak like a pilot? Okay, because you have to expose to the audio clip. That's why you will have a chance to listen to many, right? Different clips from different countries, different pilots, and also the ATC as well. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? It's okay. Okay. Is there anyone on the internet? No, I don't think there's any question from them. Can't see there's any. No, I don't think there's any. Okay, so would you like to try to listen to some audio clip? All right, this is the tasting. Okay. Okay, so let's see. The first clip is a typical one.
Hotel Kilo 5229, surface wind 230 degrees at 10 knots. You are clear to land, runway 21 left.
Clear to land, runway 21 left, Hotel Kilo 5229.
Hotel Kilo 5229, vacate first left, taxi to the apron via Kilo and then Charlie.
Vacate first left, taxi to the apron via Kilo, then Charlie, Hotel Kilo 5229.
Okay, so this is a very typical one. What you could listen, is it easy? I don't think there's any problem for you to understand. Yeah, it's talking about the the runway information. It's easy, pretty clear, right? This is a very, very typical clip for assessment for the normal situations. Okay, now let's listen to some of the emergencies. Okay.
Tower Pacifico 7716. We have just had a look and the cabin crew have reported flames. We intend to evacuate the passengers. We request fire crew.
Pacifico 7716, roger. Fire crew have been advised and will be there shortly.
Tower Pacifico 7716. We request an ambulance as soon as possible. We have some passengers suffering from smoke inhalation.
Pacifico 7716, tower. The medical crew are en route. Can you advise me of how many are injured?
Tower Pacifico 7716. We have 4 injured passengers and one of the cabin crew has also been hurt. He took a whack to the head while trying to put the fire out.
Okay, so it's just an example. I'm not going to test you anything. You may find difficulty in listening, all right? Also, there are lots of information in the course. All right, I'm going to teach you how to jot the notes, okay, effectively in order to get all the information. This is what I'm going to teach you. Okay, no worries about that. All right, but now it's normal if you not understand fully. Okay, lastly, would be the most challenging part. Is about the different accent. Okay, let's try.
Airfield 542, fly heading 360 vector to Gina.
360, Airfield 542.
Airfield 542 and reduce speed 200 knots.
Speed 200, Airfield 542.
Airfield 542, turn left heading 340, contact radar 120.2, additional maintain 7000.
Maintain 7000 and 120, Airfield 542.
And heading 340, good day.
Heading 340, Airfield 542.
Quick clear 9105, reduce speed 200 knots.
Reduce speed 200 knots.
Okay, so you will find totally different from the previous one, right? Because can you make a wild guess about Japanese? Is a typical Japanese accent, and we have some other accent as well. All right, like Indian, Eastern European, all right, Western European, like Spanish, all right, Germans, etc. Okay, you will actually expose to different accents. This is actually one of the training that's I'm going to deliver in the course, because when you are taking the ICAO assessment, you probably will have a chance to listen to different accents, okay? And you cannot predict any, okay? Because in flying, you would have quite a lot of experience to fly from one place to the other country, right? That's the English, although they are speaking in a proper structure, but the accent would somehow preventing you from listening clearly, okay? So that's why I will probably give you the training on that as well. Okay, so I think that's all my presentation on all the course materials, contents, and what are you expecting to learn in the course? Do you have any questions about the course? Mm-hmm. Yep, it's valid for 3 years. Yeah, for level 5 is 6 years. For level 6 is for life. You don't need to retake it. Yeah. Okay, but for this course, okay, it is not easy to teach for the student to get level 6 easily, right? Depending on how they pick up the language. Okay, but for level 4, there are some technique because of the requirement of from our perspective, from the rate perspective, we can actually easily tell, right, whether you are be able to use it effectively, although you're not a native, right, speaker. Okay. Level 4 is the minimum requirement. Okay. If you are considering to apply for the cadetship, okay, or for any pilot license, the level 4 is the minimum requirement. Anything?
just inquiries about what time will the course will be like? Nighttime? Because usually for students like myself, there will be like major course that I'm studying in the
morning time. Yeah, usually this kind course will be held in the evening time, right? Like from 6:30 or 7 till late night.
Is there a particular fee that I have to submit, or what would the fee be?
Fee is still to be confirmed. Still to be confirmed.
11,000.
From the current page is about 11,000 Hong Kong dollars. All right, but not including the mock exam. Right, it's separate. Okay, but this mock exam is cost several $100s. Okay, because we are going to deliver individually, right, and you will be assessed individually. You will have roughly grading on that. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
What kind of organization can I take an ICAO English exam?
Oh.
Something like that. So there's an example that you can apply to pay for to take the ICAO.
That's a good question. Depending on where you would like to use the ICAO English certificate. If you are going to apply a job in Hong Kong, like for a cadetship or professional pilot, you have to the rater is designated by the CAT. All right, and you have to approach to the company, whether it is the airline or the operator, to check which rater is endorsed by this company. Like for Cathay Pacific, for example, they have their designated rater. Okay, you have to approach to them for the examinations. But the format or testing content will be more or less the same. Okay, don't treat my course as the standard one. Okay, although I'm following the ICAO standard structure, but each company or each rating organization will have slightly different in terms of the assessment structure. Okay, I will give you more details during the course. Sorry for that. But in general speaking, we will assess you like photo descriptions, listening to the audio clip, or basic conversation between the candidate and assessor, and also the self-introductions. Yeah. Or if you would like to get a license in overseas, okay, because personally I'm an Australian rater. I can conduct the ICAO test for Australian license, but not in Hong Kong, right? But not in Hong Kong.
You take your ICAO English grade.
Yep.
So it will be
because we are all under ICAO standard, all right? Technically, we are all mutually recognized. Mutually recognized. If you are holding a Hong Kong certificate for Australian licenses, it's okay. And I believe, the other way around would be okay as well. Okay. But if this is just for your first time to approach to the test, and you are planning to get a job in Hong Kong, then I would suggest you to take the Hong Kong exam. Yeah. And it is valid for the whole world. Okay, unless the organization require a local assessment. Okay, local assessment. Like for example, I know for the cadetship in Hong Kong, they don't accept other ICAO certificate, right? That's why you have to approach to the designated one. Okay, but for the licensed pilot will be another story. You could actually hold this because you are already licensed. Okay, that the requirement would be slightly different. It's about the licensing requirement, not the ICAO requirement. Okay. Any other things I have answering? Anyone on the internet? I don't think there's any. Okay. And that's yeah, template. That's all for this afternoon. Thank you.